Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk Podcast. We're here today after one of the least eventful weeks in Derby County's history. Literally nothing has happened. So we've got a couple of topics to talk about today, which hopefully will make it a little bit more exciting. Joining me today for hopefully a good episode is first off Jamie Page. How are you, Jamie?
I'm good, Jake. Sorry. No news is good news, I guess. Right?
I guess so. I've just realised I say we've had no news. Christian Bielik left, but I guess that is pretty much no news, isn't it? Because we always knew that was going to happen. And we've also got Adam Titley. How are you, pal?
I'm good, mate. Pretty slow week, wasn't it? Pretty slow week.
It was, and it'll be even slower when everyone hits their tweet limit and can't see any of the updates. So yeah, hopefully, if Derby announce a player, they announce it early in the morning so everyone can see it, which would be nice. But we've got one really big topic to talk about today. So last week was the 1-year anniversary of David Clowes taking charge of Derby. Obviously, amazing day. I remember just being sat downstairs with my family. And when the news got announced, I pretty much burst into tears and then got an incredibly badly timed text from Radio Derby saying, "Can you come on and talk right now?" And there was me just trying to get my words out on live radio, which it was nice, but I was a bit like, I don't want to cry on the radio. But no, it was great. I guess to start it off, JB, talk about your emotions from that day.
To be honest, it's hard to think back. I know where I was, but I think it was just a real blur. I spent the months before thinking, hoping that something would get over the line, and it didn't. And then all of a sudden, David Clowes, who, we'd only heard maybe the week or two before that who he was. Obviously, I'm not from Derby area, so I didn't know anything about Clowes developments or anything like that. So yeah, it was just a day that was just a complete blur in my mind. But a year on, listening to the Radio Derby interview with David Clowes and talking through, his version of events and just how far we've come in a year is miraculous, really. We are so lucky to have a club and to be able to go and watch the players and watch the club in the future. I think is going to be an amazing thing. So I don't think we'll ever take it for granted again. There's probably previous seasons where we've been in the playoffs and thinking, why on earth are we in the playoffs? We should be winning this league. And I think it actually gave a lot of fans a bit of a wake up call. But yeah, an amazing year with Clowes at the helm. And I honestly wouldn't want anyone else in that seat at the moment. I think he's a breath of fresh air, and he's a very likable man.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. And before we get onto the changes that he's made since he's gone in charge, Adam, what were your thoughts and feelings the day it got announced?
Relief more than anything. I think, to be honest, relief that would be going again next season and for the foreseeable future. It was a real possibility we wouldn't be around. So then when David Clowes stepped up and took over the role, it was superb to hear, really. And obviously with the latest interview coming out that Mel Morris is no longer involved at all, that was made pretty clear during the interview. It's just great to hear, really, isn't it? It was a lot of relief when it was first said, and for David Clowes to step up, a fan to come in, it's just really what you want as a fan at that moment in time, isn't it? Someone who knows the club, someone who's also business minded with his own property development company, and just came in, steadied the ship, and like Jamie said, quite thankful that he did come in. I think I agree with Jamie, it did give a lot of fans not a reality check in my eyes, but almost just more enjoying of the moments that we have with Derby County rather than thinking about the next big step forward, more enjoying it in the moment. And I think that's just great.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think what I like about Clowes the most is how assured he is. You know when he says things, every word that he says is true. And I don't think the same can be said for previous owners that we've had. So it's nice. And as you said there, before I guess COVID and all of this stuff kicked off, I'd go to every home game, but away games, I'd be sort of like, I'll go occasionally, I'll go to the big ones and stuff like that. Now I'm desperate to go to every single home game, every single away game. I think it's reawoken the passion in a lot of fans that maybe had gone for a few years under Mel's stewardship. So yeah, very, very good stuff. And before we move on, we've got a nice comment from Derby County fan 32, says up the Rams. Spot on, mate. Spot on. But just to go on to the changes that David Clowes has made, so I've got a pretty decent list in front of me. He's changed pretty much every member of staff involved with the first team, and that's including all the players too. I think who's left from before that wasn't a youth player? I think it's pretty much just Craig Forsyth, isn't it? Every other player's changed. All the staff have changed. The managers changed. Out with the old, in with the new. The old guard had gone. JB, how have you found sort of the changing culture at the club since David Clowes came in?
Well, it needed it, didn't it? I think that's the most important thing to say. He needed to have a fresh stamp on this club, and actually it's probably been needed for 10, 15, some people would probably say 20 years. So it was needed to be done. I think that it's probably gone a little bit deeper than I thought it would, in all honesty. We're looking at some people moving on from the club that have been around for 10, 15 years or whatever that may be. Darren Wassell, a prime example. So it is very much turning of a new page. And like I say, I think that was kind of needed. I think we've made good signings on the pitch, off the pitch. You look at our head of recruitment, academy manager. They come in with good CVs, good profiles. They are people that are going to take the club on. And I think when we talk about the academy now, we know how good our academy can be and has been previously. And I was quite relieved to hear how important it was to David Clowes to keep that status that we had. And I think over the next 5, 6, 7 years, or maybe even sooner than that, we will start seeing players come through from the academy again. And I can't wait for that, because I think, we love players that come through, and we sign players, I think, to Chris Martin that we signed on a free, and how much we enjoyed him. But I don't think there's anything better than having a player come through the academy and get into the first team. Your likes of Max Burge, your Will Hugheses, your Louis Sibleys. For me, that just means a little bit more. So I'm really hoping to see that over the next couple of years. But yeah, I think on the whole, surprised at the level of changes that he's made, but I support every single one, in all honesty, and everything that he's done, it makes complete business sense. And for me, that's the way that we need to move forward as a football club.
Exactly. And Adam, something Jamie touched on there, we've changed both our head of recruitment and our academy manager. So basically our head of youth development. They're two roles which are massive, buying players for the first team or identifying players for the first team, and also identifying players for the youth teams too. We've talked about a culture shift at the club. We know how we operated before under the likes of Darren Wassell. And do you think we'll be working differently now? Do you think things will change a lot? I know Jamie said things will change for the better. Do you really believe that?
Yeah, I think with the change in recruitment and the change in the academy, I think the academy was doing so well at producing players. At some point, it was going to take a hit, and that hit came during the administration with the fire sale of players. And I think now it's going to be 3 to 5 years before we see a top player come through. Another Will Hughes, if you like. You can almost another Will Hughes, another Max Bird, something like that. A player that steps into the first team and can comfortably hold down their position. But I think that's all part of an academy project and an academy setup. I think if you're constantly churning out players that are going to perform in your first team, the only clubs that could probably do that are probably the top 6 in the Premier League comfortably with the money that they have behind them. And I think it's good and important that David Clowes understands that. I think as a fan, the academy is probably the only thing that you see maybe your money going to. And it's something that's why you value the academy players coming through so much, because you've almost contributed to them yourselves as much as you can. So I think we are going to see a change through the way that David Clowes runs things at Derby. How long he's here for into the future, that's another question to be asked on another day. But I think we will see a change in terms of recruitment. I think at the moment mainly going for a lot of short-term options to get us up and out of the division, which I think is great. I think that's what we need to do at the moment. We're not going to be spending big money on getting players in that are going to perform for us in the Championship, because we're not there yet. I think we do sometimes have to look at the short-term goals. I think sometimes in the past we've looked at the long-term goals too much and forgotten what we're pushing for at the time.
That is a really great point. And yeah, that's something, to be honest, as you were speaking, that was something I was thinking about too. We spent a long time trying to bring players through. I know Mel Morris had this thing about having 50% academy, 50% brought in, which is pretty insane. I mean, I know it literally happened, but it only happened because of the circumstances he created, which is quite ironic. But yeah, I think bringing in players at the minute that, can do the job, can get us up, and then we can look for the future. Because when you think about it, and without sounding big-headed, a team like Derby, it's not we shouldn't be in this division, but we could be in a better position than this division. So I think the priority has to be to try and go up. But yeah, if we can bring in a few good young lads for the new academy team to develop, you can't see any problem there either. And Jamie, as we wrap up on David Clowes, something that I was really impressed by was his dedication to the women's team too. I know obviously the men's team's got a lot more reach, but I mean, he goes to every single game. You got to think he's a busy man during the week, but he dedicates every Saturday to the men's team, every Sunday to the women's team. I see him at every single game. It's quite funny because, yeah, you walk past him and you're right, David, how you doing? He's the owner of Derby County, and he's just chilling out at Mickleover Sports to watch the women's team. Do you think it's hugely beneficial that he's involved himself in other teams other than the first team and really seems to show how much he cares?
Yeah, exactly. He loves the club. He loves every facet of the club, whether that be the men's team, women's team, academy. He's also put in some really good stuff with the community projects as well. So he's a clubman. And like I said before, you couldn't wish for anybody better in this position. I think the fact that they've now brought the women's team into Moor Farm as well is massive. So they're around and have access to those facilities. And who knows, with women's football at the moment, it's booming. I'll honestly say that I didn't watch any women's football before the Lionesses won the last major tournament, and now I'm absolutely addicted to it. I can tell you the starting lineup, I could tell you how we could play, and different things like that. So it's absolutely booming. We're seeing participation levels, go through the roof at grassroots as well, and I think finally women's football is getting the respect and kind of the limelight that it deserves. And like I said before, if there is a situation where Derby can keep climbing up the ranks, then fair play. If we can pack out Pride Park and see the women's team beat Forest, hopefully that would be nice, because I'm not sure the next time we would play Forest on the men's side of things. But yeah, it's really good, and I'm delighted to see that David Clowes is inclusive of everyone under Derby County's kind of umbrella, as it were.
Very good, very good. And Adam, I mean, when you look at what Clowes has done, we've talked about the women's team there. The thing that he's doing for the men's team too. We saw obviously the stadium, Moor Farm, everything was in a little bit of disrepair. He's not just fixed all of that; he's improved on that and built on that. And when you look at it as a club, you'd mentioned earlier, we don't know how long he'll be here. He's making changes, isn't he, that will last. And I think that's really, really important. Can you see him making more changes, and how long can you see him lasting?
I think he is going to make little but effective changes over the coming times. Obviously, I know when he first came in, it was something as little as repainting some of the outside parts of the stadium, which really it improves the look and professional side of Derby County Football Club, really, like you mentioned, with the women's team coming in to train at Moor Farm. I think he's going to be here for another 5 years. I think after that, I could probably see him selling up, which is completely understandable with the financial standpoint he's at, where he doesn't want to put all of his money in because he's not as rich as some of the other owners in the league. I think that's quite obvious and quite known to a lot of people. I think he's going to make subtle and little changes. We saw, like we've mentioned, the academy director changing. That's a big change, and one that goes under the radar, as in the next 10, 20 years of players that come through the door will be under that academy director's recruitment and understanding. So that's a big change for Derby County Football Club, but one that no one will notice until those players come through and start performing on a first team level. It's one of those things that you don't realise until it's already happened. So I think we will see some subtle changes from David Clowes, ones that will put us in good stead for the future. And I think he's almost putting it in good stead for when maybe we're 5 years down the line, hopefully in the Championship, in a better position. And he's at a point where maybe he can look to sell the club to someone else who can take it to that next step.
Yeah, and as you've I guess referred to there, he's planting seeds, isn't he? He's starting to put things into motion, and over time it'll grow, it'll bloom, and hopefully whoever takes on from him eventually will have a really good foundation to build on, which I'm sure he'll leave. Right, enough about takeovers, enough about our saviour. We've got a very quick bit of transfer business to talk about. It's not Christian Bielik leaving. It's a certain striker that may have just become available on a free, which a few people have asked us to speak about. But before that, we've got another striker because we've got a comment from Derby County Fan 32 who says, "What are your opinions on Clark Harris as a potential option?" I'm going to throw it out to both of you. What do you reckon?
Adam?
I'll go. I know a striker that Paul Warren's managed before at Rotherham, if I'm correct, when he was at Rotherham for a period of time. But would I like him at Derby? I'm not too sure, if I'm honest. I'm not sure how he'd fit into our style of play. I think he performs well at Peterborough. He's just one of those players that you always associate with the football club, isn't it? I think it's a little bit difficult to imagine him not playing now. I know, like I mentioned, he played at Rotherham, but he's just been so good at Peterborough. I think he will force a move, but I think he'd cost a lot of money, and that's why I'm not too favourable as that as an option. I know we're not going to be able to replace David McGoldrick without spending money. I don't really want to spend too much money on another 20-goal a season striker. We got very fortunate. McGoldrick came on a free. Will we see a player of his technical ability again? Probably not for the next 3 or 4 years. He was so good. He was almost top end Championship, bottom end of the Premiership ability. But Clark Harris, I just don't see him performing that well in the Championship if we did go up. I know I've talked about looking at short-term goals, but I just think it wouldn't be a cost-effective move for us, if I'm going to be honest. I'm not his biggest fan, as you can probably tell from that. So probably not.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point, though, because he is a player, he's getting, I wouldn't say towards the end of his career. He's not that old, but he's sort of edging slightly past his prime now. He's still a terrific player, but the amount of money they'd want for him, as you said, he's always sort of flopped in the Championship. He looks great at this level. Would he be a good option if he was cheap? Yeah, 100%. But if we'd have to pay a mountain of money, I just don't think it'd be worth it. I know it's ironic because we've just been talking about, thinking short term and not long term. But I really think that would be incredibly short term thinking if we did that, as much as I like him as a player. But yeah, so it's a good suggestion. But an even better suggestion is, a man who's just been released by QPR. He's scored 77 goals for Derby in the past. He can't run, but he's pretty good at holding the ball up. Jamie, you know what I'm talking about. It's Chris Martin. What are your thoughts?
I think we'll still be having this conversation in 5 years' time. I really do. Every time he comes available or every pre-season, we think about him. Look, I think if he's available, if it makes business sense, he's not probably going to be your starting number 9 every game. But bring him back. Come on, let's have some more fun with the wardrobe. Honestly, the most complete striker that we've seen at the club in the last 10, 15 years, probably in my eyes, since probably Raziak or someone like that. I absolutely love him. So the thing is, he will end up in League One, in my opinion. He will end up in League One, and he probably will do quite well. And I think at that point, all Derby fans will be saying, "Oh, James Collins has scored 8 goals. Chris Martin scored 12. Why didn't we go for him?" And I understand probably from Paul Warren's idea. Look, he's not going to tear himself about for 90 minutes. But what he actually does do is win important flick-ons, important free kicks. He knows where the back of the net is. You find him in the right area, he will score you a goal. I'm just a little bit worried about where he eventually ends up. And if he does go to potentially a for example, if he went to a Bolton or a Pompey or someone that's in that top 10 picture, maybe he could fire that team into a top 6 place or maybe even a top 2 place. So I'm sure there's going to be quite a lot of suitors. I'd like our name to be in the conversation, but I just don't think it's probably going to happen. But I'd definitely have him over Connor Washington.
I'm starting to think you don't like Connor Washington.
I don't like that rumour at all.
I mean, we spoke about, I think I might have mentioned it last week, or it might have been to you afterwards, but Connor Washington, we talked about him being in a front two, he'd run rounds. I think if Chris Martin was in a front two, be that focal point, play off him. You've got 2 wing backs, a striker and an attacking midfielder running round him, making runs. Me and my brother were watching earlier, actually, the highlights from that Koku season, where it ended for COVID midway through. And you watch pretty much every goal, it'd be like, oh, Martin's played the flick on, Martin's laid him off, Martin scored the goal all the time. Like, his goal involvements were crazy that season, especially considering, we had players that we'd spent a lot of money on, the likes of Martin Waghorn playing up there as well, and Tom Lawrence, and Chris Martin was up there at the top. So, yeah, it was interesting to watch, and it seems he played a similar role for QPR. So, yeah, I know Warren wouldn't want him, so it's just, again, wishful thinking. He can run, can't it? Well, he can't run, sorry. And Warren likes his players to run into the ground. I don't think he's got that. Adam, I know you love that man. What are your thoughts?
I'd drive him to Derby myself if he wanted to come. I think Paul Warren's thinking of players running themselves into the ground does work, but I almost do think that sometimes you need those players who have the hold-up ability. Last season, I can give numerous examples where we were winning either 1-0 or we were drawing or even losing, and we were still playing the long balls forward or through balls in the 89th minute. And David McGoldrick's legs, they must have gone by then because he wasn't managing to get on the end of them. And that's when you need a player like Chris Martin to hold it up. And James Collins really isn't that player. He is the player who'll run himself into the ground. He doesn't find the back of the net too much, but he will score 10, 12 goals a season, which will be important goals to win us points. But I think we need that dynamic. And I believe in Paul Warren to bring someone in like that. I think Martin would be great. Like Jamie said, he's probably going to end up in League One. I think if Bristol Rovers lose Aaron Collins, I could almost see him going there. He's based almost down there around London and Bristol. So I could see him going there. I don't think he's going to end up at a top 6 club unless it's us. But I'd love Chris Martin back. I think he'd be a great addition. I think he'd hit another 20 goals and E-I-E-I-E-I-O, the Football League would go. That's all I'd have to say.
Worst bit is, if you did come back, he wouldn't be able to be number 9 unless we ship James Collins off. Although that is a great reason to get rid of Collins. But yeah, no, obviously it's not realistic. And I know there'll be people listening that will go, move on. And I completely understand, he's in his mid-30s. He can't run. He's not had the most incredible goal return in the Championship. I mean, it's pretty solid, but it's not been amazing. But then again, sometimes the heart wants what the heart wants, and there's nothing you can do about that. So, yeah, I'm glad we're all on the same page, even if half the people that listen to this probably aren't. And I guess one more thing before we look ahead to, do we play Matlock this Saturday or next Saturday? I sound like a plastic now. Is it this Saturday?
Yeah, okay, this Saturday.
Yeah. So we can look ahead to that, which is good. One more thing, just want to talk about Nathaniel Mendez-Lang, who seems to be having the time of his life with Guatemala in the Gold Cup. Set up the only goal they've scored all tournament so far, and they've got a crunch clash next week with, is it pronounced Guadeloupe? I don't know. I'm not showing off my French pronunciation. No, is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, they're the favourites to go through. Guatemala are the big challengers to get into that top 2 to qualify for the knockouts. So yeah, best of luck to him. And have you seen the goal that he set up?
Yeah, I saw it. It was right.
Yeah, Mendez-Lang of old. That was first half of the season. Mendez-Lang there. But
the lengths he'll go to miss Paul Warren's pre-season training is pretty good, isn't it? Going over and playing the Gold Cup. I think for me, when I saw it, I thought, oh, this is a bit of a rumor that probably will die down. And then next thing, he's over playing there in the Gold Cup. And I guess, is it the case of we wanted the legs to keep going, or did we want them to rest? I don't know. But the thing that I think is, obviously with Ben Brereton Diaz, obviously getting his Chile call up. This is going to be a bit rogue, so I expect people listening and you two to shake your head. But I think his career after he got the call up kind of, went upwards. So maybe the confidence that he gets from winning the Gold Cup with Guatemala, he can bring back and winning the group, maybe winning the group. Maybe he can come back and put performances in for Derby. I think we all agree if we see the Mendes Lang that we saw before Christmas, he's going to cause defences problems and he's going to be an asset to our team. So, yeah, wish him all the best in over there. But we want him back and we want him scoring and assisting as soon as possible, really.
Well, when you think about it, you can see why it give you confidence. He's what, early 30s. His dream of playing international football was probably long gone. He probably never thought he'd ever pull on an international jersey. And then to pull on one that's so special and so important to him because of his grandma, that must mean the world to him. And, what you spoke about, Ben Brereton Diaz getting that boost from playing for Chile, that boost must be amazing. He must feel incredible at the minute, especially now he's set up a goal as well. He's starting every single game. He's probably their star man. I was having a look through the squad and they pretty much all play in Guatemala. So he's probably their star man as well. So, that feeling must be incredible. So, yeah, fair play to him.
He wears Mendes on his back, doesn't he? Have you seen that? So
I
think he's dropped the other part of his name. So maybe he comes back and keeps that name similar. I don't know if Ben Brereton Diaz had it on the back of his Blackburn shirt. Did he put Diaz?
He's got
on the
Brereton Diaz now.
Did he? Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we'll see that with Mendes Lang or Mendes.
No, I hope so. Right, let's look ahead to our first pre-season game. I didn't manage to get tickets for this. Did you, Adam? Did you manage to get any?
Yeah, I got 4.
4? Wow.
Well, no, because
isn't it?
Yeah, it's all right. It's me, my parents, and it's my girlfriend's 1 year with me. So what a treat!
Oh.
What a treat!
Yeah, I know what you mean. I took my girlfriend. I know it's not real, but it was our 6-month anniversary. We went to Barnsley away, and neither of us had a coat, and it was freezing. To be fair, we won 3-0, but yeah, it was, yeah, happy anniversary. Sounds good. You're looking forward to it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be packed out. I know it's sold out. I think we're going to get to see a good game of football. Matt Little pretty competitive last season. Just missed out on playoffs. One of the highest ever finishes, if I'm correct there. And yeah, I think we'll see quite a good game of football for a pre-season for sure.
I hope you're right. Jamie, what players are you looking forward to seeing the most?
Well, I think all the new signings, but then I'm looking forward to seeing who can potentially break through from the under 20. Is it under 20? I always forget. Is it? It's
21s now.
21,
it's changed back, hasn't it?
Yeah, I always playing Football Manager when I was playing it was always under 23s. But yeah, from the under 21s, obviously got Robinson, got Max Bardell. We obviously got Kwaku Adoro as well, who performed well last pre-season, put in a good game against Bradford, but then wasn't part of any plans moving forward. So I think at this time, I look for those players to see if they've been able to develop enough to be able to be competitive within this squad. I don't imagine we've got any trialists. We've not heard of any trialists, but potentially there will be a trialist on the bench or on the pitch at some point over the course of these pre-season games. So that's always good. And you always go on Twitter and someone will be tweeting, oh yeah, that player is whoever who used to play for whoever, and that's always quite fun. But I think really the reason for pre-season is just to get minutes in legs. I'm expecting the intensity to be good. I think what Warner want to do is put minutes in legs and put the length in legs for the season. So yeah, I'm not really too bothered about results. I think as long as we can get through pre-season with no serious injuries and all enjoying things, ready to go on day one, then that's good enough for me.
Good stuff. Yeah, I agree on the younger players. I know it's Max Bardell and Darren Robinson, isn't it, that are training with the first team, and I still can't believe we've got a youth player called Darren. It kills me every single time, honestly. We need a Gary next. That's next on the list. Adam, what about you? Who are you looking forward to seeing the most?
After the first pre-season last year, I couldn't sing Adoro's praises highly enough. I thought he looked great. for a youth player to come in and play his first men's game in a trialist scenario. I thought he looked great. After seeing him in a couple of cup games last season, during the actual league season in the cup, he just looked completely out of it. Didn't look ready. And then I managed to go to one reserve game last year, and to put it sweetly, they got battered by West Brom, and that was towards the back end of the season. Dan Robinson looked the most complete player, the most physical. So I'm looking forward to seeing him come out, because I think this will be hopefully a bit of a breakthrough season, a couple more first team appearances for him, a couple more appearances in the cup, because I think he looks physically strong enough. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing him against Matlock. I think we'll do the classic, a strong team in the first half, and then swap it for maybe some of the players who'll be starting on the bench next season, and a couple of young lads. But I'm rooting for Adoro. I really hope he has a great breakthrough season, because he looked amazing at Bradford. And I'm just saying, my 10 years being season ticket holder, I've never seen a player have that good of a first game. I just don't know what it was. He must have knew that if he played well, he'd get something. But then he just didn't work out for him in terms of the league game. So I'm hoping he comes out against Matlock and puts in a great performance, and maybe we can see him a couple more times in the first team next season.
Yeah, I hope you're right. And I remember that game as well, because I think Wildsmith played like the biggest donkey I'd ever seen in goal, and then turned out to be pretty brilliant. So yeah, I think him and Kwaku swapped, didn't they, pretty much? But yeah, no, I agree. I think the likes of Kwaku. I'll tell you what, I think it might benefit him if we play a back three as well, because if he's playing as a wing back, he'll get exposed far less. So yeah, I can see that being a bit of a benefit. I guess we usually do score predictions, don't we? I feel like that's pretty redundant for a pre-season game against a non-league team playing the youth players. But we might as well do it anyway. I'll go, 4-3 Derby. Jamie, what do you reckon?
I reckon 3-0 Derby.
I want your goal scorers as well.
Yeah, I reckon James Collins hat-trick, and everyone's going to get on the James, as Vic would say, everyone's going to be on the James Collins hype train, which, do you know what? This season, I'm well and truly up for backing James Collins 100%. I know on Twitter and on other forms of social media, he doesn't get as much love as he probably deserves. But yeah, I'm massively behind James Collins this year as our number 9.
Good stuff. That's a horrible thought. Right, Adam, next. What's your score prediction? Who's the goal scorers?
I'll go 2-1 Derby. Trialist Chris Martin, first goal penalty. Lovely. And then trialist number 2, Tom Ince on loan. And then, if I'm correct, a small little fact, I'm not sure if he still plays in goal for Matlock, but Matlock have the former Derby County third choice keeper from 13-14. I've completely forgotten his name, which really annoys me. Yeah, Sordini plays in goal for Matlock. That maybe he'll score from his own box, maybe. But no, Matlock have a few tidy players. I'm sure it will be a pretty good game.
Or he'll get sent off within 30 seconds like he did on his league debut for us. So I can't believe I got that as well straight away. The second you said third choice keeper, I was like, "This is Saldini."
Yeah, it shocked me when I went to watch him as well, and he was there. But no, little Easter egg for everybody listening.
It is. Yeah, I've realised I didn't name my goal scorers. I've got to try and name 4. I don't know. James Collins will score 2 because it's his level. And then, I don't know, who's actually back? Joe Ward header at the back post. And then Curtis Nelson, corner's going to go in, keeper's going to punch it into Nelson's head, and it'll go to the bottom corner. So, yeah, that's my prediction. If it comes true, I'll be quite worried.
A bit of an off-the-cuff one, but is there one trialist any of you two would like to see?
You may have mentioned him already.
Chris Martin. Chris Martin.
What about you, Jamie?
I don't know, to be honest. I would like. I know we spoke about it in the podcast that we did about signing players and who'd be on our list, and I'd love to have someone from like Finland or Norway or Eastern Europe who nobody knows, but just comes in. Similar, do you remember Valentino Guakac Have I said his name correctly there? Maybe
I always said jockey eye, which is clearly not right.
And I think the Derby fans at pre-season were singing something about him being a Swiss guy or something like that. But I want one of them moments again. You know, if someone brought in that nobody really knows too much about, and it's a bit of a roll of the dice. Yeah, that's what I want.
Bring back C1 Cambo. That's what I reckon. He's
the
type of player we need. But yeah, right. Is there anything else to talk about? I'm just frantically checking my talk about list. We've got favorite preseason games. If you've got one, what would mine be? We've had some good ones. I wish I went. That Kaiserslautern away game looked pretty solid. Villarreal at home, that was pretty good. Real Betis at home, when we made them look really average, and then they went and did really well in La Liga. That was a good one as well. Have you guys got any personal favourites?
I think for me, sorry,
you go, Jamie. You go, Jamie. You go.
Age over beauty. I'd say the Ted McMinn Rangers testimonial probably will always be my favourite, and I don't think you'll get anything close to that. Obviously, I was hoping that the Craig Forsyth testimonial was going to be something similar. However, it's not. I think that potentially will go down as the worst preseason game ever. But yeah, in with the Rangers fans on the pitch at the end, the linesman having the big Rangers flag, calling offsides with that was pretty funny. But yeah, that was a special day.
Good stuff, Adam.
You reminded me of Rangers now. When I went Rangers away to Ibrox a couple of years ago on the Cocker, probably the only time we're going to get to go to Rangers, unless we get in Europe. But I don't know how far. I don't know how far David Clowes has got a business plan ready for that. So I'll have to wait and see about that one.
No, I think we might have to wait a little while longer. I've just remembered Burton away in the Cocker season, and we lifted the Bass charity vase. But I went with my brother, and we were talking about, and we had Bennett. I can't remember. It's Bennett, Josephson, and Anya, I think it might have been actually. And we were like, oh, it's the fluid three. They're going to win us the league. And I don't think they got a single goal between the three of them all season. And Mason Bennett missed from about 3 yards, went crashing into the back of the net as well. That was pretty good. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Anything else, lads? Anything exciting you want to talk about? Jamie, I know you had some ideas that I completely ignored. Is there anything you want to say?
Don't think so. Just like the chap said earlier, up the Rams. I think it's going to be a really good season. We're building some really good things on and off the pitch. I think for me, the most important signing from here on out is a striker. We need goals in this team. We've not got goals at the moment, in my opinion. So interesting to see who that player is. I imagine they're probably not far away because Paul Warren will want them in to kind of incorporate over these pre-season games and to get them going. So yeah, hoping that we can get that player in the door as a natural number 9.
Yep, completely agree. Right. Thank you so much to everyone who's listened. It's been another great episode. I'm sure you've really, really enjoyed it, or at least I hope you have. Jamie's doing finger guns at the camera. So if you did enjoy it, you've now stopped. If you did enjoy the episode, please feel free to check out some of the previous ones we've done. We've done a lot of talking about transfers and things like that in previous eps. You can catch all of them in audio format on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that does podcasts really. And you can check them out on video on YouTube and Twitter. So both of them are at Rams Talk Pod. If you did enjoy, please do give us a rating, as long as it's 5 stars. That'd be very generous. We've had a few really good ones recently, and we've really, really appreciated it. We do this to hopefully make you guys have a bit more fun over the preseason break. And yeah, it's been really great. So thank you very much to everyone who's listened, and thank you very much, lads, for having a nice chat.
Cheers, Jake.
Cheers, Jake.